Good morning, everyone. My name is Alexis Lozada. I'm the supply chain planning pre-sales lead at Westernacher Consulting for the Americas. A little bit of quick background about me. I joined Westernacher about 6 months ago. Prior to this, I spent 8 years as a product manager for the SAP IBP global development team. And prior to that, SAP, I actually have a background as a supply chain practitioner for a consumer goods company here in North America, where I was responsible for supply chain strategy, customer logistics, reverse logistics, all that fun stuff that you are probably doing today in terms of mixing process, people, and technology to drive continuous improvements to your supply chains today and tomorrow. So today is another opportunity for us at Westernacher to talk to you about supply chain planning, digital transformation. Today's topic is about really why move from SAP to APO to SAP IBP. So this is the agenda for today, is a quick brief on Westernacher, on who we are, then jump right into the topic at hand, which is why move from SAP APO to SAP IBP. We'll get into the details about what Westernacher's point of view is in terms of mapping processes between the two technologies and some implementation scenarios. We'll share a couple of customer success stories that were delivered by Westernacher, and then we'll leave it with Q&A. I'll try to be brief. That way I can be done perhaps in 45 minutes, and then we can open it up for your questions. Hopefully we'll make this interactive and worth your while. So let's get started. So let's talk a little bit about Westernacher practice and innovations. We are a leading SAP partner consultant in the digital supply chain space. We have been growing organically and continuously and sustainably over time. We have about 850 plus experts globally, close to 100 million euros in revenue. It's 100% employee owned, so it's a different type of ownership. We've been delivering innovations for over 53 years, especially in the business processes, more than 30 years as an SAP partner. Net zero carbon neutral achievement, that's something that we are also proud. And we are a cross-solution expert, right, in the end-to-end processes and digital supply chain. So we have expertise in S/4HANA. From a pioneer perspective, we've been first in EWM, pioneer in transportation management, first in logistics, pioneer in analytics and planning, where, of course, digital supply chain falls on. And we also work in innovations in the Internet of Things and manufacturing cloud. How we innovate is because we view the supply chain from an end-to-end process. So we like to integrate processes and technology that are connected, right, from strategy to execution, from plan to delivery, basically. And so we cover that whole spectrum across solutions and processes. And we have developed expertise in many industries across the most recent legacy and most recent SAP product portfolios. I'm trying to be brief here, not to go too deep, so we can get to the topic. So why Westernacher for supply chain planning? Well, it's how we engage, right? We have the Westernacher approach, and it's about delivering core competencies and skills to customers to drive that value. And it's really creating the interception of the customer insight through discoveries, developing a point of view, bringing the implementation experience that we have. And at the end, it's about combining moving you, the customer, from your assets, processes, and results to future state processes and involving the change management that is required. But it's all leveraged by the IT, right, by the technology. So that's the Westernacher approach. We go up beyond just as a technology implementator. We are actually a supply chain consulting firm that focuses on building sustainable processes, embedding the required change management that makes it possible for customers to basically extract the most value out of the technology investments. Another reason why is because we have 20 plus years of SAP-based planning project experience. The supply chain planning practice has over 50 consultants worldwide, completed about 70 planning projects. And we have been a planning pioneer for quite some time, not just on the IBP space, but also in SAC planning and the service parts planning space as well. We're very strong on that. As well as on the EPPDS solutions and ESPP solutions embedded in S/4HANA. Again, whom we serve, we have very deep industry experience. Our customer success touches many, many industries, as you can see here, from the automotive to industrial machinery and components, logistics service providers, consumer goods, retail and wholesale, life sciences, chemicals, raw materials, and oil and gas. So we have quite of a deep industry expertise across customers that you see here listed. All right, but let's now jump in. So that was a brief introduction about Westernacher, about us, about we. So why move from SAP APO to SAP IBP? Why move from an on-premise solution that perhaps you've been on a journey for quite some time and consider a cloud-based supply chain planning technology, which is the latest development at SAP? It's really starting understanding where you are today and where you want to go. So putting technology aside for maybe a second, let's consider some key questions that you may have. One of the motivating factors for us to adopt a new technology has to do with perhaps increasing the agility and effectiveness of your planning processes, create the opportunity to eliminate silos, not only inside your supply chain organization, but also outside of your supply chain organization. So we'll talk a little bit about that. You perhaps want to shorten the planning cycles, create more agility as one of the main questions. And I'm sure there are many more questions that you may have in terms of where you are on your process. But these are, some initial questions to entice you to consider as to why move. The other reason is people. Technologies and processes are as successful as people in your organization are capable of not only adopting, but driving both. So it's one of where you are today is about perhaps you did not achieve the planner adoption that you expected with APO. Perhaps your planner productivity, is not as desirable or as desired. Perhaps a lot of, maybe as a function of that adoption, folks are still continuing to do manual work in Excel. You are on a plan to really upgrade your planner skills and knowledge, bring them up to speed with the latest innovations as far as supply chain planning is concerned. And perhaps it's collaboration also, again, not only within the planning teams, but also within the supply chain organization and across all their functional teams. I can think of a couple: procurement, finance, sales and marketing, and so forth. But then another block of key open questions that you may want to consider too on where you are today and where you want to go is perhaps today's technology that's being used has so many customizations that perhaps as you rotate your people, that might be a function of as to why your planner adoption and productivity are not as desired. Perhaps today's technology in APO, you have some long processing times for planning runs, and you would like to improve that. You would like to get faster to those planning results. The fact that it's on-premise is dependent upon a maintenance program with SAP, so you have a long lead times for innovation delivery. This is an area of where cloud technology does play a role, and we'll get more into that. Or simply from a technology perspective, you want just to move to a digital cloud-based technology that you see the value in there. But what is important is, as you consider this move, it's important to understand where you are today, where are those gaps, assessing, the state of your planning processes, the state of your planning teams, how much collaboration and interaction exists that you may want to increase, which will have a function in terms of increasing the productivity and decision making. And then drawing where you want to go. And so wanted to start with this information first. Again, just as a brief, you've probably seen this from the SAP, is about SAP Integrated Business Planning for Supply Chain. Again, is the latest cloud-based solution for supply chain planning, where you cover areas of sales and operation planning. It's leveraged by advanced machine learning and artificial intelligence algorithms, mostly in the automation of the forecasting process that impacts your demand planning. Maximize the efficiency of your inventory and working capital locked up in inventory with a inventory optimization solution that can improve your customer service levels while managing the inventory investments across your end-to-end supply chain network. Completing your tactical and operational supply chain, considering and optimizing, your priority rules, driven algorithms, consider gating factors, constrain basically the possibilities as part of your sales and operations planning, and driving that down to a plan order, which at the end connected to production planning and your MRP and SAP S/4HANA, you will have that end-to-end loop, right? So it goes from the strategic to the tactical to the operational. All embedded into an end-to-end visibility across your complete supply chain, where this is where exception management is possible via alerts and via to understand root causes and drive resolutions as part of your planning. That's the capability provided by Supply Chain Control Tower that brings all of these planning processes together. The latest, and then this is a really relatively new methodology, demand-driven replenishment is where you protect the material flow, reduce nervousness via the DMRP, or what we call demand-driven replenishment at SAP. And then again, as I said, is creating a feasible master production schedule. And this is where the topic of synchronized planning plays a role, where you build a circular loop of feedback between planning impacting your scheduling and scheduling impacting your future operational plans within IBP. And where you can build robustness that your plans are reflecting the latest decisions in your detailed scheduling for both production and transportation of what generically is called distribution. Again, this has another layer of connection, and we'll get more into this with the SAP Business Network. All of this, of course, planning results not only impact your execution, your operational execution decisions, but it can also impact your vendor suppliers, your vendor community, key suppliers, and that is visible via the integration of SAP IBP with the SAP Business Network solutions. So enough of an introduction on IBP. You're probably very familiar with it, but if you're not, this is what I meant to do as a quick introduction. What are some of the key benefits? And to be honest with you, I'm very frank, right? This is probably when you adopted APO, this was something that was also pitched in terms of key benefits. But again, it's all about it's less about IBP, but it's more about if we have a full ideal blown product supply chain planning solution in place with high productivity, high adoption, with robust processes, of course, with continuous improvements being embedded with a future roadmap, right, that you roll out across all your planning organizations. These are the key benefits, right? Reduce sales and operational planning costs, improve your forecast accuracy, and be able to react more quickly to changes in demand. Increasing the sales forecast accuracy also has benefits related to reducing inventory, improve on-time delivery performance as well, increase revenue and reduce revenue loss due to out of stocks, right? So allocating inventory at the right time, at the right place, right quantity. But overall, beyond this business benefits, it's all about increasing your user productivity with the standard analytical templates, dashboards, and quite frankly, a common collaboration platform, not only for your planning teams, but all the stakeholders within the planning processes, finance, marketing, sales, procurement, and so forth. And of course, the operational planning teams as well. This is borrowed from SAP, and this is a blend between the Aberdeen and Gardner case studies plus benchmarks from the SAP value engineering teams. And they were able to put together these ranges. But again, the point of this is kind of giving you some indicators. If you're trying to build a use case, it's an indicator of the benefits that you will accrue when you achieve maturity in your integrated business planning, especially on supply chain planning, right? So top line, there are benefits in terms of revenue improvements, operating costs, asset utilization, and working capital. This is meant to give you sort of a baseline range of the possibilities. Of course, the upper bound values here that you see are if it's worst case scenario, you don't have connected planning processes, mostly manual. But if for those that have a more sophisticated processes that you're just adopting, doing more of incremental improvements on top of the technology, then you will be more on the lower end range values here as well. But again, kind of give you an assessment that maturing on an integrated business planning process, leveraging SAP IBP can take you to this improvements to your business. We will not do this, right, if there was no value. So it's important for us to consider building those business cases as well. Yeah. But beyond just the business cases, right, just to get into the details of it, SAP, per our point of view, SAP IBP offers incremental solutions over SAP APO. And even though this slide is an eyesore, we wanted to give you some level of details of the advantages of IBP over APO. I'm sure some of these could be subject to discussions over a beer or whiskey or wine. But again, this is our point of view. So the advantages cut across functionality, the user experience from an integration perspective, and also from an innovation and technology. So I'm not going to go one by one, but I'll pick out the ones that I thought will be more relevant for this presentation for now. One is, of course, from a functionality perspective, it's all about the embedded artificial intelligence and machine learning techniques that exist in IBP and that will exist in IBP, not only as a function of the IBP product development in the future, but also as a function as SAP is investing on artificial intelligence tools to improve processes overall. And I'm sure they will trickle down to the supply chain planning experience as well. A couple of other ones that I thought will be relevant that don't exist in APO is demand sensing and multi-echelon inventory optimization. These are, key functionalities, and I'll go into details for those. Speed in performing what-if scenarios. I do know that customers really enjoy IBP's capability to run quite fast scenarios and be able to run them in a way that it can help you make much faster business decisions. There are a couple of other functions there that also are incremental, but I just wanted to give you a little bit of detail in there. I'm not going to go too deep into them. From a user experience, for quite some time, and if you haven't seen them, right, the Fiori designs are quite intuitive, quite simple to use. This is an area where it really, SAP has been investing in helping, based on user experience. They've been leveraging Fiori designs to make it easier for users, planners in this case, to use that, easier to use, easier to adopt. There are various planning user interface options that IBP offers. One of them is, of course, to minimize the impact in change management. For example, the Microsoft Excel add-in planning views really supports any resistance to change. So if you don't want to, move into more of a Fiori UI, web UI experience for your planners, the Microsoft Excel add-in planning views offers the same capabilities, and you're capable, a planner is capable of finishing his or her own tasks with Excel tool. Exception-based planning, driven by alert management, is another, quite frankly, an experience that helps the planner use the solution and especially promote the ability to come into the solution, be able to consume those alerts, focus on what matters for that in today, right? If I'm working today. And then there are a couple of other things from a user experience that I thought are very helpful in IBP: the automation of processes, and be able to customize processes within IBP and create not only the visibility to processes for everybody, for all the planners and all the stakeholders, but be able to hold everybody accountable within the platform, be able to track those processes. How are we progressing, for instance, in our SNOP process steps? Who is responsible? Why are we not completing things on time? It creates visibility, capability, but able to track what's going on with processes. And with that, the collaboration that IBP offers in terms of Microsoft Teams collaboration, WorkSum or SAP Jam, some users don't even have to go into IBP from Microsoft Teams. They can check off and complete their tasks, and that will be reflected into the system. It's an area where, again, it's creating collaboration, is bringing stakeholders together within the supply chain planning, within the supply chain teams, and other stakeholders, functional stakeholders as well. The third block is integration. Standard integration with SAP and non-SAP systems. That's been there for quite some time. But what I believe is the really valuable integrations is, for instance, with detailed scheduling with S/4HANA PBDS. It's very, very important, not only especially with the latest development on real-time integration. Again, synchronizing planning with execution and planning with the scheduling, and being able to, being just a one-way street, now it's a two-way street. So your planning is reflecting the latest scheduling decisions, and then you can re-trigger your planning for the next cycle with more accuracy. Another key aspect of integration is with the transportation management solution in S/4HANA. At Westernacher, we've actually built some integration in terms of being able to forecast transportation requirements, leveraging the demand planning solutions in IBP to be able to create some transportation commitments within transportation S/4HANA TM. And then a couple of other ones that go outside supply chain is all the future requirements that we will need for raw material components can be made visible to your supplier networks via SAP Ariba. So that integration also exists. So after having gone through the selection of your key suppliers, talk about building resiliency within your supply chain planning processes. This one is key. So all those future requirements that are built within IBP for raw material components, that can be integrated with your supplier networks and be able to pass that and create that collaboration with the vendors, be able to make sure everybody, including your vendors, stay ahead of what is required into the future for your supply chain execution. And then the last but not least, is about the integration with value planning. This is something that is relatively new, but supply chain planning can create elements that impact the profit and loss statements. So there's an integration with SAP Analytics Cloud where, most customers bring their financial information and they reflect not only their financial planning, but analytics within Analytics Cloud. We can integrate components that are key in the supply chain plan that can help driving that financial planning perspective. So it's all about integrating elements. I mean, can you imagine a world, right, where finance is making assumptions independently about supply chain costs into the future, completely divorced from their understanding of what's happening in supply chains. But this integration eliminates that silo and actually brings both supply chain planning and financial planning together and be in sync. Again, it's synchronizing two processes. So the realities, are there between financial planning and your supply chain plans that bottom line have an impact on your profit and loss predictions. And then the fourth one is innovation and technology, right? So this is a mixture of the benefits of cloud technology that is scalable, especially with the latest elastic cloud technology that is provided by SAP HANA. It helps you process, the mega data, the big data that is realized or driven by your supply chain. So one of the benefits of this is faster run speed, better use of memory, faster planning job runs and so forth, and be able to scale at a global perspective. Another benefit of SAP IBP being a cloud technology is it delivers innovation quarterly, which is great. Part of this is really tied not only with being able to get to innovations faster, innovations that may be needed, but it's also tied with the fact that with SAP IBP, you have the ability to influence that innovation. And so you can drive the roadmap, the product roadmap via your customer portal entries, where, peer customers can vote. And that has a pressure and a push into product development to be able to deliver that innovation the next quarter. So you don't have to wait a lot longer. On the other hand, I mean, some customers complain that it's hard to keep up with innovation, but not every innovation has to be adopted on a quarterly basis. You can pick and choose what to adopt. But what's important is the speed to innovation is much shorter than APO, for sure. Another benefit is with every quarterly innovation, if there are 6 to 7 hotfix cycles, this might be too technical. But what is great is if there are fixes that the tool needs, they can be done very quickly within each quarterly innovation. So it's basically when I say hotfix cycles, is after every innovation, every quarterly release, within the next 6 weeks or so, 6 to 7 weeks, SAP has the ability to fix those issues faster than before. And again, as already mentioned, the ability to influence, you have an ability to influence that innovation that can be delivered faster. Again, I spent a lot of time on this slide because it was important from our perspective to share with you the advantages of one technology over another. I wanted to give you some details, but what is true is IBP does offer incremental values, not only from a functional perspective, from a user experience perspective, from an integration and innovation and technology. This ties back to the earlier slide about where you are today and where you want to go. So the whole idea is, let me help you understand a little bit, give you a little bit of the answers to those questions with this slide. So moving on, what I'm going to do next is I'm going to get into some details on some of these key functional areas, especially the areas of demand sensing, multi-echelon inventory optimization, for instance, talk a little bit about user experience as well. And then we'll get into the next section of it. So again, the IBP for demand, and this is probably something that you already can achieve in APO. There is a streamlined approach to demand planning You complete your segment issues and time series analysis, pre-processes. Then you go through a planning process where you can monitor and control your fiscal forecasting, your new product introductions, be able to measure on an ongoing basis the forecast accuracy. Planners override. You can include promotions as well. All just focus on the exceptions, right? Not the try to boil the ocean, as they say. But with this, you can complete both your tactical and operational aspects of your demand planning. I will say that SAP IBP for Demand offers over 14 algorithms internally that you can use to leverage the best fit depending on your product portfolio, demand requirements. Again, powerful statistical and pattern-based recognition algorithms. If 14 algorithms are not enough for you, IBP for Demand also offers the capability for you to connect to external sources of the forecasting techniques that are outside of that 14 methodology scope. So that's great. And there are machine learning techniques. Again, the end goal is to be able to fine-tune your forecast accuracy, be able to increase it, be able to understand what are the best fits in order to predict your demand, which is key to driving everything else within your supply chain. But just to get a little bit on demand sensing, which is, as I mentioned, one of the deltas between APO and IBP, it's a mathematical technique and that consumes near real-time information, right, to look into demand patterns and really create a more accurate and realistic forecast in the short term. So that's what demand sensing is. It's about improving your short-range planning forecast compared to your regular demand plan. And so the business challenges that are addressed by demand sensing is, of course, poor customer delivery performance, excess inventory, or shortage of inventory, basically not having your inventory balanced properly because you don't have the best forecast in the short term. And of course, losing market share to competitors, right? Low service levels and so forth. Value proposition here is to better understand biases of your forecast in the short term, significantly reduce that forecast error, 18 to 49%. Because of that improvement in demand forecast, you can actually lower your inventory. You're also able to deploy product more effectively, right? So by understanding where your demand is actually coming from and in a more accurate fashion, you can deploy more effectively with the goal of improving service levels. It's about improving your fill rates, your on-time deliveries, and preventing less expedites, right? And prevent, waste of inventory or even interest stock transfers that happen because you did not allocate inventory properly. So it's all about improving your ability to predict the short-term demand and be able to deploy more effectively. That's the real value here from a demand sensing perspective. And here's an example of a typical manufacturing plant that sources 3 distribution centers. Demand sensing helps you detect the demand patterns at that granular level, be able to generate a forecast that is specific to each DC demand pattern. So that way, when it comes to deploying product from that California manufacturing plant, you can replenish in a way that can meet that demand pattern, improve fill rate, and allocate inventory properly, right? And especially not end up with excess inventory or shortages of inventory. That, at the end, is what's going to lead you to deliver on time, but fulfill in full as well. This is a little bit of detail of the type of demand sensing modeling that is supported from various inputs, from a consensus demand, that bases snapshots of that demand, your historical sales orders, future open orders, historical shipments, promotions, if there are downstream signals, right, points of sales, retail store inventory, warehouse withdrawals, any social sentiment, weather. So it really has a big variety of inputs that will really help you go through, generate a better forecast in the short term. There are some pre-processes that are supported, like new product introduction mapping and promotion elimination. Those are optionals. But at the end, the core of demand sensing and IBP is about machine learning and pattern recognition algorithms that help you detect weekly patterns, daily patterns, be able to do matching and balancing both weekly and daily. And the output of this is being able to generate either a weekly or a daily sense demand, depending on how granular you want to be, and depending on the product category you're dealing with. You may not need to do daily sense demand for some products. A weekly may be more than enough. What's important is you will have outputs at a very granular level, at the product location customer level, where it matters, right, for that sense demand. And there's also the capability to view the factors that are driving those results and be able to understand what is explaining this sense demand. The other delta that exists in IBP that does not exist in APO is inventory planning. So the way, and so let me go maybe before I get into all the details of all these processes, but I mean, the bottom line in APO, you do single stage safety stock calculation. I believe is only consuming demand variability. In IBP, it's a multi-echelon inventory optimization algorithm that considers demand variability, supply variability, and service level variability. And so it is, and when I say multi-echelon, it's a complete optimization plan that considers finished goods, bill of materials, and raw materials. So in one optimization, you can actually generate a time series inventory plan across all the materials that are connected with each other, meaning a finished good connected to its bill of materials, and be able to generate, raw material plans accordingly. So it's really multi-echelon, going through a processing or production all the way to considering the vendor's supply variables and lot sizes as well. So it's really end-to-end from customer demand to vendor sourcing. But this is the way to, as I said, this is a highlight here of a comprehensive approach to inventory planning, where you have a pre-process where you can generate segmentation rules that will influence the target service level that you want to accomplish across all your materials and location and customer combinations. You have the ability to calculate the forecast error, which is the input to demand variability into the inventory planning tool. A new innovation that is coming next year is supply lead time, where you can calculate not only the means of the lead times that you can use as inputs into inventory, but also the lead time variability. The lead time variability related to your internal transportation or distribution, your production or processing lead times, and your vendor lead time. So it covers the spectrum of those three sourcing relationships within your end-to-end supply chain network. This is an area of innovation that will be delivered next year. So I'm putting it here because I know it's coming next year, and it's going to be a key pre-process. So similar to influencing your target service levels based on segmentation, the forecast error that drives your demand variability inputs, so will the supply lead time in terms of not only calculating the supply lead time requires into the model, the inventory model, but also the lead time variability that drives that supply variability aspect of it. Here's where managing by exception, in the background, you're running your multi-echelon inventory optimization, which is trying to lower the total cost of inventory by meeting the service level targets that you define for customers. Be able to calculate the rest of the inventory components, right? That really builds that comprehensive inventory plan, such as your cycle stock, on-hand stock, your in-transit stock, your target inventory position, your reorder point. All of those are standard outputs as well. The planner focuses on the exceptions, has the ability to override some results depending on some planning assumptions that are outside when this baseline plan ran. You can run what if scenario planning. That could be part of an override. Let's say, a planner decides to, understand if the latest lead time data, for instance, from a vendor source is much shorter than expected. They can run in a scenario and be able to make a decision whether they should choose that planning assumption instead of another. So the real-time what-if scenario planning capabilities are really, really, really important in order to identify improvement opportunities. But even then, the latest innovation introduced in IBP, as far as inventory planning is concerned, is when you're finalizing a safety stock plan, especially when you're overriding a result that is much lower than the recommended optimal value. Now, IBP for inventory allows you to understand what the service level impact would be. So, simple example is the tool is recommending me, 100 units of safety stock for the next 7 weeks. Let's just keep it simple, 100 units in each week. But what if I have to override that to 80, 90, 70, 50, 25 in the next 7 weeks? Much lower, right? Because I'm aware that there will be some short-term supply constraints, and we're not going to produce those safety stock into the future. Well, now the planner can come in and say, well, I want to predict what the service level impact is. That 100 unit recommendation for the next 7 weeks was based on a 99% service level. Well, what would be the service level if I'm planning below that 100 recommendation? That's another feature that is it's brand new. It actually was released recently from SAP. Just to moving on, again, not going to get more into detail. I think I've spoken enough about inventory. So moving on, I talked a little bit about the ability to monitor what's happening in your supply chain planning process. This is what Supply Chain Control Tower achieves. It gives that visibility to your end-to-end supply chain, allowing you to make better decisions. So the ability to integrate everything into one view, focusing on exceptions, that's what makes your planning teams collaborate and also be able to adopt the solution as well. The alert management capabilities gives you the ability to get faster to a resolution, collaborate with teams, be able to share one version of the truth, right? One source of the truth of the data, be able to run simulations, and be able to collaborate with external partners as well, all in about balancing both demand and supply, right, within your organization. Another benefit is the web UI using the Fiori Launchpad. We talked a bit about this. I believe the Fiori, the web UI offers a lot of capabilities that can help with planner adoption and productivity as well. The Fiori design creates tiles to individual applications, which can be arranged into groups that are customized per planner's needs. Jobs can be scheduled and run. There's real-time insight in very detailed data all the way to the aggregated level. Very complex data can be simplified and consumed by the planner. Processes, as I mentioned, can be tracked and act upon. You can build key indicators. There are analytics dashboards. There is the latest analytics stories with much more advanced analytics capability as well. So create that visibility not only at the detail level, but also at the aggregated level. So it has the ability to speak to many audiences from much higher, folks that have responsibility on a much higher level of the supply chain planning process or the supply chain overall to the planner. So that whole range can be really covered, and it helps with adoption of the solution because all the stakeholders can come into the solution and consume the data at the level that they need to. So that's what's important there. Another part of the Fiori application is that it helps you create things in a very intuitive way And so it's easier to, for instance, set up an application job template. It's easier to understand what's on my master data. It's easier to, for instance, create scenarios, consumer scenarios. I will say something that I did not touch in here, but I'm pumping up, right? So now the master data management capabilities offer in IBP, they come via Fiori application, where not only you can have visibility into the master data in case of an audit process, but you can actually launch machine learning techniques, especially based on outlier detection, to detect anomalies of your master data and be able to fix them as well. So that type of capability is only feasible within the web UI as well. So take advantage of that, and that's a major differentiators between APO and IBP. The ability to clean up your master data using machine learning techniques, using UI flows that help you not only detect it but fix it at a mass level. That's a major win as well for me in terms of IBP compared to APO. Again, Excel, I think I went too detail on that, but these are some of the capabilities in Excel UI with the add-on. To me, this is all about, the biggest benefit is you can complete a planning process using Excel, and that is not a problem. So for those that you may have a team that could be resistant to change and you want to keep them within the Excel way of doing things, this is the way to do it. What if analysis and scenarios, I think what I will say is not only there is a broad range of what if analysis, but there is a broad range of how fast the scenarios can be done. What if analysis can be done on a base plan, can be done on versions of data as well. Again, there are key scenarios in terms of balancing demand and supply. There's as an example of the type of what if analysis you can do in the case of inventory planning. Build ranges of what your inventory investment will be based on different customer target service levels. You can view those results not only for specific locations, but across the connected supply chain network. Collaboration, I think I went a little bit into it. I think I'm way short of time, I think, as I see it here. So let's talk about mapping processes and implementation of scenarios. Where to start? Again, it goes back to, let's assess your current pain points. And depending on what your current pain point, we have built the type of point of view in terms of the IBP module that we would recommend. So for instance, if your challenge is poor customer service level, here's the breadth of IBP modules that can help you with that. High inventory, high stock out. So we did a mix and match of IBP modules with respect to your pain points. Here is how to map the SAP portfolio of the planning processes with respect to APO and IBP. There are some capabilities in APO that are not in IBP. They're moved more into the PPDS, MRP landscape. So this falls more into the S4HANA. But you'll see that, for instance, from a business planning, S&OP planning, demand sensing, operational, tactical and operational planning, these are the different modules that can be mapped between APO and IBP. So not going to go too much into the details, but this is a good reference mapping that will be helpful for you in terms of what solution maps to what processes, supporting what cadence as well. What's key here is, for instance, S&P. There are aspects of S&P in APO that will fall into ePPDS or PPDS that will be more connected to S4HANA. It's embedded in S4HANA, to be precise. And that's why synchronized planning is a key aspect between IBP and PPDS. To me, it's about defining a roadmap. There are 3 scenarios where the roadmap can look when you're transitioning from APO to IBP. This is an area where you can focus on maybe an improvement scenario Perhaps your pain point is improving your forecasting. So you start with IBP for demand first. There's a scenario where you want to enhance. So as I said, there is the inventory capability in IBP is superior compared to APO. So perhaps you just want to enhance that aspect of it. So that's your starting point in the transition. And the third one is perhaps your S&OP process is not as mature, but you want to consolidate all of your S&OP process into one single platform. And so perhaps your starting point is on the S&OP route as well. But these are, again, it's about the roadmap can be defined based on what pain point and what area of your supply chain plan process is critical in the short term versus long term. So you can build a roadmap actually based on what is your continuous improvement priorities, what aspect of your planning process you want to is more critical to do now than in the future. A couple of customer success stories that we helped transition at Westernacher from APO to IBP. One of them is Ineos. So they were running their sales and operational planning and MPS based on IBP. So one of the initial situations here are that they didn't have harmonized planning processes. The way they were performing their forecast and demand planning was consolidating Excel files. Can you imagine that? And so they, again, the planning process was all over the place as far as forecasting was concerned. And so the S&OP helps them bring all the processes together in one single platform. And again, some of the expected benefits that they achieved was having a single point for their data sets. They were able to improve their forecast accuracy and standardize their planning processes globally, right? That by itself, shortening a lot of the planning cycles, for example. A second example is with Electrolux. At Westernacher, we delivered the multi-tier inventory optimization solution. This was, again, as I said, was one of those scenarios, going from a not very advanced inventory planning solution to a very well advanced planning solution. Now they move away from manual calculations, individual calculations, not having complete visibility of their inventory planning investments. The ability to create, what if scenarios was also beneficial for them. But you see it here in the expected benefits. It was about standardizing a global planning process, being able to generate quality, trustworthy inventory plans. And this customer in particular was able to improve, not only increase service level, but be able to lower their inventory investments. So with that, I want to thank you. Of course, here's my name, my email, my phone. Let's work together. I hope this call was beneficial for you. I apologize. I think I went too deep into the topic, so I only have about 4 minutes left for questions. So if you have any questions, comments, I know, Manny, you had some pre-questions as well, but back to you. Questions?
Hey, Alexis. Yeah, let me pull up these questions here. Can you talk? We had a question come in about getting people involved and the importance of just general buy-in from everybody involved. Can you talk a little bit about how that works with the transition and some of the important things to highlight?
Well, I mean, I go back to this slide, right? Where you are today. I will say that it's important to do a discovery of where you are today from a process people perspective first. If you want people to be convinced, of course, you need to build some business cases, but that has to be derived from an assessment of where you are today. What are the pain points? How long does it take to make a planning decision? How accurate are your planning decisions? I mean, there's got to be a kind of a root cause analysis of what's going on today. How are you performing from a supply chain perspective? Low fill rate, high inventory. So there are hard values and there are soft values, right? One is not that important over the other. What's important about the hard values is it convinces management to be able to approve, but nonetheless, the people value is important. Not being able to talk, not being able to connect. Everybody's making their own decisions. The data, how accurate is that data that everybody is using? Everybody has their own versions of it. So I think, I'm just giving a laundry list of where to start. It starts with you assessing where you are today. How are you performing today? And where that opportunity opens up for you to work on this transition.
All right. Well, I think we're out of time. So
okay.
Thank you everybody for joining with us. Please connect with Alexis on LinkedIn. Please follow us on LinkedIn on our Westernacher page, and please reach out if you have any questions. But Alexis, do you have anything to add before we wrap everything up?
No, I want to thank you for your participation today. Quite frankly, let's continue the conversation. Let's work together. We mean that. It's not just a statement. We really mean it. And I'm available for further conversations. But I really hope this was valuable. So thank you.